Hello. So, this is my journey map that I kind of mapped out in terms of the problem, the organization, and the responses taken to tackle the challenge that I chose. So, for this particular journey map, I chose Planned Parenthood as my health organization. For the problem to be tackled or the challenge that they're currently facing, popular among Reddit users specifically, mentioned in not only Reddit but a couple of other social media forums, was the overall contest and kind of safety concerns that a lot of the patients had while receiving services at Planned Parenthood. So for the approach that I kind of took for this map really was to first kind of map out the stakeholders. So I mentioned the four primary stakeholders that I feel would be pretty relevant in this situation. So obviously donors and supporters, patients, security groups, and then providers and staff. So for the first sticky note connected to the stakeholder, I kind of put their initial response to how they would approach the situation. Um, Specifically, this is more common responses that a lot of people mentioned that these stakeholders have taken in like early years. So starting off with the donors and supporters. So the most common response from donors and supporters in this type of situation would often be to kind of just continue funding safety measures and creating like outreach programs that address the safety concerns of patients. This has proved to not necessarily be entirely useful, considering how a lot of outreach programs kind of don't really get a lot of responses and a lot of like support hearsay necessarily from patients, and which is understandable due to confidentiality reasons really, but a lot of these people don't really want to be continue the sense of trauma that they've already obtained from their services, and so they've kind of just retracted themselves. So obviously the stakeholders, their initial response to the safety concerns is just really to become aware of what's going on. A lot of Reddit users mentioned how they kind of taken a security approach in which they'll take like a security friend, or maybe like an emotional support friend, or just somebody who will be there to stand up for them if necessary. For security groups, oftentimes they just monitor safety threats through the support of like local law enforcement, maybe like social media activity as well, if like they see upcoming protests that may be coming up. And so I think it's also important to take into consideration the area, such as like prominent conservative areas or liberal areas. You'll definitely see a conjunction of different responses simply due to political and religious beliefs. For providers and staff, I think an initial response is really how they ensure clear communication about their safety protocols in their clinics and the services that they offer. There's only really so much that a provider and staff can do, really, due to protocols and overall well-being of themselves as well. So now going on to the second stick, I put updated response, but I think a more just a viable declaration of this can probably be a more viable response, I would say. So I kind of analyzed their initial response and how effective it really was at tackling it, and I kind of updated it on what I would think is a more viable and probably a more effective approach. So for donors, I think a more effective approach would probably be to fund online campaigns addressing what Planned Parenthood really is. So I think forums such as like social media, Reddit, Facebook, ads on YouTube, really like publicizing what Planned Parenthood really is and kind of not necessarily detach it entirely from the problematic aspect that it's kind of seen as, but also shed light to like the many other services that they provide and how standard these services are in not just Planned Parenthood clinics, but in like regular medical clinics. Um, then I kind of connected this on the how to tackle realistically. So going down to security groups, I feel like security groups really need to make a more assertive approach, and not necessarily violently, but I feel like they should definitely instill a sense of a presence, and a strong presence that's not really there to take any of the crap, and really provide patients like a sense of security. I think for providers and staff, obviously they can only do so much, but I also feel like better alternatives should be taken into place, such as offering like telehealth services, and obviously continuing the reassurance about the safety measures and the protocols taken in clinics. And so altogether, I feel like these responses can come together to really create a viable response and really create an environment where the patient feels a lot more heard, seen, and protected. And so as a result, I created kind of like a final solution that integrates all of these responses into one. So I feel like Planned Parenthood could offer ride services for patients, obviously funded by donors and supporters and the company itself, to pick up and transport patients, whether it be from their cars, from like a safe zone, or from their homes if possible, and transport them to the clinic. I feel like as a result, this would definitely bypass a lot of the protesters and just avoid any of this like negative confrontation that they may experience. And so combining this along with telehealth services, which obviously services that can be conducted virtually for patients if necessary, or if possible, I would say, would be definitely a good combination in terms of tackling and creating a more viable response to the patient's needs, and just overall avoiding this like potential hazard and this safety concerns that they're imposing onto them. So yeah, thank you.